Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
So I'm thinking again this year, tell me if you agree. I think we discussed this. Sort of the snowfall, the sound of jingle bells,
Yes.
logs on the fire, and neighbors holding a inappropriately large gathering next door
Yes,
for the holidays.
absolutely.
Yeah, you can hear it now, can't you?
I
Practically.
can. I can't decide whether I'm more pissed that they're having it or more pissed that they didn't invite us to be
Yeah,
included in it so that we
well,
could rudely tell them that it was unacceptable.
listen, you know they're not wearing masks, and you know none of their lights match up. You know what I'm saying? There's always that
Oh,
like one stream that's just flashing on and off for no reason with the rest of them.
that's true.
So I feel like this is a good time as we celebrate the holidays, separate but together, us and the listeners,
Yes.
to I know we always say it at the end of the show, like people should go to the website, whythepodcast.com, and they can find all sorts of lovely things there. The sound of Paul Stanley screaming at audiences for a good 45 minutes, as an example.
Yes.
But this year, as a little added bonus, and I will grant you, we really should have been more forward thinking in this, and releasing this the week before or the week of Christmas is not a great idea. But we've put together a gift guide. So if you're looking for something, those last minute gifts for friends and family, we kind of got them, right?
Yeah, and I actually think it's the best time to release it because, first of all, as someone who only ever shops at the last minute, it's perfect time for me. But secondly, everybody knows that as of 3 weeks ago, your gifts aren't going to get there in time anyway. So you may as well just order
That's
it
true.
now.
And the thing that I think we tried to focus on this year, we obviously have links to all of our guests and their goods and services, but we also have a lot of things that sort of fit the genre of the show.
Yes.
If you are a fan of this ridiculousness, there are things we can tell you about, things we can try to sell you that I think.
Things you'll never recover
No,
from.
but I mean, if you could get a candle that smells like Lemmy from Motorhead, are you not going to get a candle that smells like Lemmy from Motorhead?
For
I
somebody,
know.
I will.
Too bad I already got my mom her gift.
I know. I think your mother
It'd
would
be
love
great.
it.
We'd have to explain who Lemmy was and go from there. It'd be
Yeah.
perfect. It's what
That'd
he
be
would have
good.
wanted. Let's be honest.
He would just be like an angel on high.
Ace of Spades. So yeah, I think that's important. So
I think so
happy
too.
holidays to you and yours, and Feliz Navidad. And anything else you want to add? You can just say your own thing. You don't have to just yes and me.
No,
Okay,
I'm good.
perfect.
I don't contribute
you.
anything to this madness. You
Thank
just go
you.
right ahead. Joyeux
Yes,
Noel. Let me
there
say
we
it in
go.
French. What do you want me to do? I didn't even say it well.
Never do. But here we are. It's the holidays. Let's celebrate the good things, right?
I got a Jewel Shear mixtape.
There you go. And you can see pictures of that Jules Shear mixtape on whythepodcast.com. That's a nice way to.
But I'm not giving anybody else a Jewel
No,
Shear
we also
mixtape.
blocked off his return address. So if you think going to the website to look at photos of the CD and the packaging is going to, get the kids in the car and drive past Jules's place this holiday season, we're sorry to tell you, that's not going to be possible. We also
Nope,
blocked
it's
out
not
your
happening.
address, which really in retrospect was kind of stupid because that would have been great.
Because I'd love if random people drive
you
by
and
my
Captain
house.
would be out on the balcony, just Queen waving them all by. Yeah.
We would. We'd be doing like a performance of Evita on the
Oh my
balcony.
God.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
How old were you when you got that role for the toy?
13.
Wow. And so how long had you been acting at that point?
I started in March of 77, and I got the toy in December of 81.
Okay, so you were sort of a old hand at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I had done over 100 commercials. I had done Broadway, off-Broadway, 100 voiceovers, whatever. It was just the next step, and it's the wackiest. It's a wacky story, but there are always mitigating circumstances why I always feel things happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they wanted somebody that they thought could be okay with Richard Pryor, but at the same time had to have the discipline of working with Jackie Gleason. So we get to the final process. I mean, I did 7, 8 auditions, whatever it was, and then I had a screen test in California. And I just could not wait because I got this far and I wanted to meet Richard Pryor. So we get there, and the nice lady, the PA, production assistant, comes over and says, listen, unfortunately, Mr. Pryor couldn't be here. He's stuck in Atlanta, divorce number 5. So we're going to have another black actor come and read with you. Okay. And I mean, I was pissed. I was disappointed, all those things. And again, this is where fate kind of lends a hand. So the guy came over and he knocks on the door, how you doing? I'm Norman. I'm going to be reading with you, Okay. And he says, come on, let's just take a little walk and we'll chit chat. And we were on the Burbank lot. So we just kind of walked around a couple sound stages, whatever. And I said, you look familiar. And he's like, well, I've done this TV thing. And no, that's not it. And he went through 3 or 4 things. I'm like, that's not it. And he says, well, I did this comedy. I don't know if you were old enough to see it or whatever, Airplane. He's one of the 2 Jive guys.
Yes, that's awesome.
Well, that was it. I'm a movie fanatic.
Yes.
And I took it to a different level. Not because of that I was in the movies. That had nothing to do with it. But I loved comedies and I love funny things. And I rode my bike to school. And most kids with their Sony Walkman,
yes,
they had AC/DC, Zeppelin, No, I had Blazing Saddles, History of the World Part 1, Smokey and the Bandit, Young Frankenstein, and Airplane on my cassette. So that's what I listened to every day going to school and coming home. So the minute he said it, my button just went off. And I'm like, oh, shit, man, Bud Layman to the bones, check me up, uptight me. And I started doing all of it. Well, he starts laughing. Well, we continued on, whatever. So I went back to the dressing room. He went on the sound stage. They told me what happened later. He said, listen, you can't let this kid go. He's insane. Not only does he know the movie I did, Airplane, but he knows all the jive talk and all the stuff that we made up and blah, blah, whatever. So it kind of gave the director, Richard Donner and Ray Stark, this picture of me even before I stepped on to this mock set. So we get there, and they wanted me to read dialogue as I'm coming down the stairs and all that. And so I did a couple times, the dialogue we had. And then Richard Donner says, all right, Scotty, don't do it that way anymore. Do it like jive talk. Just make it like jive talk. Okay. So we come down and we're just throwing all kinds of insane nonsense back and forth. And everybody just, you can't laugh during the take, but we get down to the bottom of the staircase, cut, everybody laughs. Okay, fine. They sort of learned in a very quick 20 minutes that they could literally throw anything at me and I could bounce. I could move with them and whatever, They're like, I did a couple of takes, tell jokes. 13 years old.
Yeah.
The only jokes a 13-year-old kid knows is dirty jokes.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
The best kind.
So I mean, I come down. I mean, the fast one is, what's the difference between a rooster and a hooker? A rooster says cock-a-doodle-doo. A hooker says any cock will do.
I remember that one. I haven't heard that one in a long time.
Yeah. Now, realistically, I really didn't even know much of what that meant, but I knew it was a dirty joke.
Right.
So they knew that I could handle being around and with Richard. And that's what got me the movie.
Was that something is that just your personality that you can just sort of not be scared of stuff and just walk in and be like, all right, we're going to go do this now?
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's, I don't want to say they're scared. They're stage fright to some degree. Being on a set of a movie is really no different than a commercial. There's still 100 people there, and everybody's this and that. It's just who you're with,
Right.
And I had met some famous people in the commercials that I had done, so it really didn't faze me. It was just really cool. That's kind of the way I looked at it. Broadway, we did, I worked at Palace Theater. I did Frankenstein on Broadway. At the time, the biggest non-musical flop in the history of Broadway. The cast was Diane Wiest, two-time Academy Award winner, who's Corey Haim's mom in Lost Boys. John Glover. The director was Tom Moore, who did the original Grease, and he did Night Mother, the movie, and he did many other things. Wonderful man who we were emailing the other day after all these years from 1980, 81, and he and I are still friends. But going out on that stage that first night, with 2,800 people in a packed house, it was a little nerve-wracking. You kind of get the butterflies, but once you get doing what you're supposed to do, then that kind of goes away.
And what about Richard Pryor? Because I feel like
the best
one. Well, I feel like anyone, the question would be like, well, what was Richard Pryor really like? But I feel like for you, it's as a 12-year-old, what's Richard Pryor like? Because that's a whole nother level of, did he hang out with you? Was he cool with you as a kid? Did he talk to you like just another person? What was his demeanor? Because he could be difficult.
No, that was before. I was with him post him burning himself up. And he literally had become a different person. He went from the drug-crazed maniac, whatever, to somebody who wanted now to figure out life. So he was very knowledgeable. He would sit and underline things and highlight things on the time the breaks off and all that kind of stuff. But I was 13 going on 14. My sense of humor, I didn't have a problem with language. If somebody dropped an F-bomb, nobody freaked out, Of course, he would tell me everything that I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. He's telling me about what he did with this girl the other night. He would literally point to somebody and say, "What do you think of her?" And I'd say, "Oh, she's pretty hot." And he said, "Well, she did this to me last night and whatever, And I'm going, "Oh, that's cool." That half the time I didn't have a clue really what the hell he was talking about, but it sounded nice,
Yeah.
What a great way to get an education.
I had
Right.
there is no question. I had a 4-month education from Richard Pryor. There wasn't anything under the sun he didn't tell me, talk to me, drugs, women, booze, everything, And we had fun. We played video games all the time, literally 3 to 4 nights a week. He would call me. And it's the most accurate. 11:31 to 11:32 p.m. He would call me because he knew that the Honeymooners was on the local TV from 11 to 11:30, and I watched it every night. So he didn't want to interrupt my Honeymooners time.
Aww.
But he would call me and say, "Hey, you got to come over to my room. I got to see you. Hey, what's up? Hey, just come on over." Well, they had given us all Mattel and televisions. You had Atari 2600, you had Coleco, and you had Mattel with the pad.
Oh yeah.
So we all had to tell him. So I would go over and I'd be like, "What's up?" And he'd be like, "Oh, you got to sit down. We got a new game, Frogger."
One of my personal favorites.
Mr. Command, Burger Time.
Oh yeah.
And we would sit there from 11:35 until 3:00 in the morning, and we would play video games. And then I'd be like, "Hey, I got to get some sleep." So I'd go back to my room. I'd go to sleep from 5 after 3 until 6:15. I'd wake up, brush my hair, quick shower, 6:30's pickup, go to the set, coffee, bagel. Okay, I'm ready to makeup, hair. I'm ready to go.
Okay, to have that discipline at that age and that level of professionalism and still have a good time, that's unreal.
But it's from the experience from 100 commercials and Broadway and off Broadway. You become disciplined really as you go because you become a professional in a short amount of time. So yeah, my age is not of an adult, but my mindset, I was an adult really by the time I was 14. Realistically, it's I'll go away from the toy for a minute, but if you want to go back, that's okay. The next film I did was called Kidco. And for 20th Century Fox, the producers were Frank Yablans, David Niven Jr. They had 70 years of experience between the two of them. The director was Ron Maxwell, who'd done The Nights the Lights Went Out in Georgia and other things, whatever. And the shooting schedule was set to shoot until December 20th, or 22nd, actually. And the toy was opening in the theaters on December 10th. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. We got to get this done. I got promo to do, and they want me for this and they want me for that, whatever. So we had the reading in the little room there in the hotel in Tucson, Arizona. And I said, can I talk to you guys before we break this up? Okay. So it's me, my dad, Frank Yablans, David Niven Jr., the director, and the first AD, Marty. Okay. I said, listen, the shooting schedule doesn't work for me. I got to be done December 10th. It's a Friday. The toy opens. I got to be able to do promo. But the shooting schedule says December 22nd. And they're like, what do you mean it doesn't work for you? We don't make movies faster. We make movies slower. I said, well, we got to make it faster. They said, get out. They literally threw me out of the room. So across the way was an arcade. So I'm playing video games, whatever. So my dad's sitting there. And they're like, listen, if we're going to have a problem with your kid, tell us now. We'll replace him. We'll get somebody else. And that's it. My dad's like, no, you don't understand. He just did 4 months with Gleason and Pryor and Ray Stark and Richard Donner. He's Godzilla. He's Secretariat. Get on his back and ride him to the finish line. They thought my father was nuts. I'm a 14-year-old kid. So they grabbed me back in. They said, okay, you want to make this movie faster. What's the first thing you'd like to do? Figuring they're sitting at the poker table and they want to know my bluff.
Right.
And I said, honestly, I looked at the shooting schedule. We can move this from here to here. Why are we shooting at the house here and we're shooting at the house there? No, we combined them. Why are we shooting at the barn here and then the barn there? And they just looked. They didn't know what to say because they were not expecting that answer.
Right.
And they went, sure, have at it. Well, they left me with the production manager for almost 3 hours. We went just past midnight and we redid the shooting schedule. And I worked overtime every day. I was pulling 16, 17-hour days, 5 to 6 days a week, every day. I'm in 98.5% of the movie, whatever. And would you believe we wrapped on December 10th, the day that the toy opened in the theaters? We wrapped, and it was a Friday. So you really couldn't do anything, So they had a wrap party. The first half of the wrap party is they bought 4 rows of the local movie theater where the toy was opening.
Perfect.
So they took everybody.
Best of all worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the opening night. And then the next day they had like a barbecue and all that stuff. And Sunday morning I was on a plane and went home.
Wow. So, that's insane that those were just back to back like that. Or I guess not back to back, but like that kind of stacked in that way.
Well, yeah, I did.
Amazing.
I get done with Kidco on December 10th, and I started Christmas Story at the end of January.
Oh my gosh.
My God.
Yeah.
And so with all of these, obviously you don't know that you're working on something that's going to be, especially with the Christmas Story, this film that's sort of timeless. And I've been on sets where you sometimes feel like no one knows what the hell's going on here. This is going to be awful. And then you see the finished product and you're like, wow, that actually came together nicely. Did you have any idea that your stuff you were working on was going to stick around, especially as somebody who knows cinema like you do?
The toy is the one that I always thought would be there because it's Jackie Gleason and it's Richard Pryor. That's 2 icons of generations. Kidco was just a little movie, $5 million production and whatever, and never got sort of the release it deserved. If it would have been released like Lucas was released, I probably would have ended up with somewhat of the career that Corey Haim had, but it didn't have it, and that's just what that is. The Christmas Story is the throwaway. Really, go through the audition process. which may be the easiest audition process ever in the history of mankind. Right after I got home from Kidco, I'm doing promo for the toy, whatever, and I get the call in on the 21st of December from, Bob Clark's office, whatever, and go meet him for the audition. Okay. So I go in, and it's 1:30 in the afternoon. And Bob and I, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Okay, fine. But he had seen the toy already. Okay. We chit-chatted for a few minutes. He says, listen, missed lunch, man. You want to go downstairs and have a hot dog? We were in Manhattan. You want to have, sure, absolutely. You want to have a dirty water dog? Let's go at it. Mustard and crowd, here we go. Okay. We BS'd over a hot dog. Got done, went back up to the casting office. We talked for another 4 or 5 minutes. He said, I got to tell you something. It was really nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in. Do you want me to read something? No, we're good. Okay, thanks. I left. My agent's office was 7 blocks away. Walked up her office. I walked in. She said, what did you do? Went in. We talked. Went and had a hot dog. We talked. He said goodbye. That was the end of it. She says, you got the movie.
I love it.
So
Takes
now,
a line.
yes, but remember, I didn't read for anybody.
I know.
No, I'd done the lead in the toy. I did the lead in Kidco. Okay, so they send me the script. Didn't say anything. So I'm studying the script over the holidays and into the beginning of the year. I'm studying Ralphie. I got the whole script down. I'm ready to go. We get up to the table read, and in Toronto, and Bob's like, okay, Peter, you're going to be Ralphie, and RD, you're playing Schwartz, and Ian, you're on RD, you're going to play this, and Scott, you're playing Flick, and what? So I turned around and looked at my father. So now I know they've hired me for, 6 weeks. Okay, finally, then I start looking through the script real quick. Flick's got 16 lines in the script. That's it. 6 weeks. 16 lines. I wrote on a Post-it note. 6 weeks, 16 lines, vacation.
Yeah.
I worked 1 day a week. I worked 1 day a week.
Wow.
And for that to become what it became,
and to be so memorable, like not even just the film, you're so iconic.
When we finished everything, whatever, I walked over to Bob and I said, Bob, are you sure about this? I did the lead, the toy, lead. He says, oh no, you're Flick. He goes, it's not the size of the role, but what you make out of it. Yeah. You're going to be great. And even so far as to what happened with the scene, there's no direction in the script. All it says is Flick sticks tongue to pole. That's all it says. Mm-hmm. And so Bob's like, listen, do what comes natural. I'm sure you've been thinking of stuff to do, whatever. Just do what comes natural. We'll see how it is. If I hate it, I'll tell you. Okay. So he left it up to me to come up with stuff because he knew, he saw the toy. He saw I could do whatever. And so we did it. Did a couple, 2, 3, 4 times. He's like, okay, that was good, but go bigger. Just give me more even. Okay. And I'm screaming louder and saying other stuff, whatever. Did that a couple times. He goes, no, you know what? The way you did it, that's the way I like. Go back to the way you did it to start off with. Okay. So that's what you see. It was just stuff that I ad-libbed and just came off the cuff just to do.
And again, I feel like that says something about you as an actor at that point, with a director trusting you to say, you can figure this out.
Bob, honestly, Bob was really worried most about Peter and Ralphie, the character of Ralphie. Mm-hmm. He gave me basically no direction whatsoever. He really wanted to worry about Peter and Ralphie. That was his biggest thing. So just letting me do what I do, knowing I could do it, gave him one less thing to worry about.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like that had a sort of a slow but very steady appreciation grow around it, and then it sort of skyrocketed. Or was it well received?
No. It's the way that life is just strange and weird. Christmas Story should never have been made. Okay. Mm-hmm. But Bob Clark loved it, and he loved Gene Shepard. He wanted to do this movie. Well, life, the wackiness of the life we're in.
Right.
Porky's does $104 million.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Bob has all the juice. He now has the juice to do what he wants. Yeah. So they want him to do Porky's too. And he says, absolutely, but I'm going to do my movie, A Christmas Story, right in the middle. They're like, no, you have to. He goes, no, I can't shoot Porky's during the wintertime. Christmas Story's winter.
Right.
I'm going to shoot Christmas Story. I'm going to get it done. And 2 weeks afterwards, I'll go right into pre-production and on Porky's too. And they fought him tooth and nail. He wanted $5 million for A Christmas Story for a budget. They would only give him $4 million. So he gave back most of his directing and producing fee to own a part of the film.
Well, that was a good
Now
deal.
they do, of course. But now
Brilliant.
they do it. They don't even want to release the movie. And so Bob talked to Darren McGavin. They started getting a group of people together to buy the film so they could have a release.
Yeah.
And finally, MGM said, listen, we don't want to have bad feelings between us. None of that. You know, you're a good director. You do the right thing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. We'll give you a release. They put it out in 400 theaters. Then it went to 800 theaters. Then it went to 1,400 theaters. The fourth week, the Christmas movies were coming out. The big, box office things. In terms of Endearment had come out, and 48 Hours, so we went from 4 to 14, and then it went back down to like 6 and then 2, and that was the end of it. But it sits there in VHS limbo, and people loved it. It was never even shown on ABC, NBC, or CBS. It never had a national TV showing, ever. So it sat there, but people found it, and it became this cult thing to have VHS movie and pass it around and all that stuff. And Ted Turner in 96 is buying the MGM film library and needed 2 movies. And his secretary had seen A Christmas Story, and he never had seen it. And she said, oh, it's a wonderful film. Let me bring in my VHS copy. So the story that I got from somebody who was very hop and Turner at the time was that she brought a VHS copy, and Ted Turner and Jane Fonda watched Christmas Story sitting there and went, oh, this is wonderful. Okay. So they bought it for a song for $250,000, which MGM was thrilled because they had gotten their money back and whatever.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, they decided to do a marathon.
Yeah.
They had done it with It's a Wonderful Life. It lasted 2 years. They didn't care. They made money. Okay, fine. They did it with Wizard of Oz. The first year did okay. The second year didn't do as good. They cut. Okay, fine. But they figured if at least they do Christmas Story at least 1 year, they'll get all their money. The $250,000, they'll make it back. And then they can show it whenever they want. Who cares? Whatever, But it did pretty good. So the second year, the ratings bumped enormously. And they went, all right, well, we'll try it again. We'll see what happens. And by the third year, it was getting like a 22 share. Right? It was insane. On cable, they knew they had a cash cow, and that was it, and it's going into whatever it is. It's 23rd year.
It's interesting in doing a little research on your career and your background. You really have, you really, as you said at the beginning of our interview, you've really enjoyed all of life, and you've taken all these different paths and turns, and whereas so many people you see just kind of stick to one path, and I think that's commendable and very interesting. Probably makes you a better actor for it too.
Well, I sort of had the concept that you learn from your experiences.
Yeah.
And you take everything that you've gone through and you use it where you need to use it. I had as a kid, I was not a crier. Henry Thomas, he was the crier. Right. Him and Ricky Schroeder.
Yeah.
You drop a dime on the floor, they can cry. That wasn't me.
Oh yeah.
But as you go through life and you gain experiences, people pass away, or you have to put your animals down, or whatever it is, you learn, you take the emotion and the feeling from that, and you use it when need be, it's, listen, if you look at my career, I mean, I've done the roller coaster, man. I've done the spectrum, and you know what? Good, bad, or indifferent. I did it the way that I did it for the reasons that had to be, whether it was, needing a job, needing work. You got to put a roof over your head, food on the table. You know,
Sure.
did I make moralistically questionable calls in some of the things I did? That's to each their own.
Right.
But hey, if you're going to tell me, listen, you got to pay rent, you got to have a roof over your head and food on the table, you know, so you're going to do this. Am I breaking any laws? Am I hurting anybody? Am I becoming a drug addict, a needle thing, and nothing? You
Right.
know, so you know, I've tried to enjoy the things that I've done,
Yeah.
and can look back and realistically almost no regrets. You know, I mean, do I regret something? Yeah. When I finished Christmas Story, I should have gone to LA for pilot season. There was no question I should have, because back then they didn't do nearly as much casting in New York for your NBC, ABC, CBS TV shows. They had pilot season, and I should have come to LA. If you want to say what's the regret, there you go. You know, as far as my career goes, you know.
Yeah. But you've still had some pretty fab experiences, and who knows what kind of roller coaster you would have ended up on. So it's the right,
Oh, absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. If you change the dynamics of what you do,
Right.
you don't know where you would have gone.
Right.
Oh God, the movie with James Belushi and Linda Hamilton, Mr.
Destiny.
Yes.
Right?
Mr. Destiny. Again, I love that movie, but that's the thing. It's you go one path or you go the other.
Right.
He changed the path and his life changes. Well, if I would have come to LA for pilot season, booked a show, what would have happened? We don't know.
Right.
Right.
You know, so I got the life I had, and you know, being around and friends with Richard Pryor for the decades when he was here. I mean, I was friends with him until he passed, you know, up until the last, you know, 8 months, year, you know, when he could talk, you know, you know, there was something coming back my way. So he always gave me words of wisdom. I mean, he was my teacher, my muse, my go-to. Something happened and I had a question about something. He was the guy I called, you know, and, you know, it gave me a lot of different perspectives about a lot of different things, you know, because he never treated me like a kid ever. You know, not that I was an equal, but he treated me like an adult. So he never talked down to me or disrespect, none of that kind of stuff. You know, what do you want to know? Hey, come on, let's go out to Ben Frank's. Let's go get some food, or we'll go here. Come on. You know, and he took me on sets of movies. You know, he took me to, he knew what I liked. We were friends.
Right.
So he knew I was a Star Wars fanatic and I love Darth Vader, as you can see the picture up of me. Okay. So he brings me down to Paramount, and there was no such thing as, well, we have to call to let you on the lot. No,
Right.
It's Richard Pryor. The guy looked, oh, Mr. Pryor, you go right ahead, sir. You know?
Right.
And so we pull up to the sound stage, and it's just a sign outside the door. It says, "Coming to America." You don't know what that is. You don't know what that is. And we walk on a you walk on a sound stage, and 10 feet in front of me is James Earl Jones.
Lord.
And I'm like, you know. And then and Richard introduces me to James Earl Jones. You know, this is my little man. This is my little boy. This is Scotty. He's my guy. Nice to meet you. You know, James Earl Jones with that voice. You know, and he knew I loved oh God, John Amos from Good Times. Knew I loved that show. There's John Amos, and of course I knew who Eddie Murphy was, so I meet Eddie and I meet Arsenio and the whole. Okay, great. You know, but that's Richard. That's what Richard did for me and with me and to me, and so opened up every avenue imaginable. You know,
That's very cool.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, no, listen, I've been lucky, and I'll say it, and I'll knock on my computer as though it's wood. I'll knock on my thing. I've had one hell of a ride.
You can follow us on all the various socials. Our website is whythepodcast.com and has all sorts of additional stories and videos. It's also where you can sign up for our newsletter. We're also on YouTube, if you're into that kind of thing. And don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes, because if you don't, we'll call your mother and tell her that she's completely right. You would look so much prettier if you smiled more.
Why the Podcast is part of Mudhouse Media. Today's show was produced by myself and Heidi Hegquist. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing executive producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our graphic designer is Samantha Mustonen. The theme song was performed by the Electrosynth-O-Magnetic Polyphonic Orchestra. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?